Scotty VP, Pelt Show on ESPN Radio. We're presented by Progressive Insurance. And there was a story that was on a lot of the blogs yesterday, and we referenced it earlier. Youngster that played football for Oregon State got wrecked. It was 4:50 in the morning. He was in a woman's apartment. She didn't know who he was. He was also naked. He got in a three-point stance when the cops came. Good story. Not as good as your stories. And let me just say this. You folks in the Midwest, you enjoy the grape. You enjoy the sauce. I'm going to save Brian's from Elk River because it's the best one. We'll get to Jake from Minnesota as well. New Year's Eve 07, peacefully fell asleep on the floor. My friends wrapped me in Christmas lights, took pictures and left. That happens a lot. If you pass out, you're fair game. The Sharpies come out, who knows what happens. They put the Christmas lights on, but they didn't unplug the lights when they left. I woke up at 8 in the morning, sweating profusely, unable to move my legs. I'm now 23, still have burns on my legs. Jake in Minnesota. At least you were in your house. It wasn't a random house that you went in. Kyle from Grand Rapids, the Rap Dirty up in the Michigan. My buddy was hammered, walked in between the house that we were partying at and the next door neighbor's house to go to the bathroom. He continues and walks into the neighbor's house thinking that's the house we were partying in. We go looking for the kid because he won't answer his phone. He's been gone for an hour. At roughly 2 in the morning, we walk past an open window to the neighbor's house, see my boy chilling with the neighbor's 10-year-old kid playing Madden on Xbox and drinking the kid's parents' beer out of the fridge. We didn't say anything. We just stood at the window laughing. I'm guessing when the parents came home, where were the parents with the 10-year-old up at 2 in the morning getting hammered with some stranger? This is just a blackout story from Iowa. It was a blackout game. Everybody wears black. When Michigan came to town in 2005 back in Iowa City, night before you go out and party, wake up tailgate, try to stumble home, end up passing out in a pile of leaves. To make things worse, I go home, pass out in front of my roommates. They spray cologne on my jeans and set them on fire. Good friends. Again, so a lot of these are pass out stories where once you pass out, who knows what happens. SEC is represented with this one. Day of the 2009 LSU Florida game in Baton Rouge, hammered prior to kickoff, went to the game, had 3 hours to sober up, went right back to the tailgate and began drinking again. Nobody actually knows what happened after 10:30, but the next day 8 of us woke up in an apartment a few miles from our tailgate. Don't know whose it was. They must have been hammered as well. We woke up in the apartment with a dog that didn't belong to us and a street sign. Somehow, some way, we avoided the cops on our way out and throughout the evening. Yeah, you wonder, where was the popo when you were wandering down the street with a street sign? From Oregon, which is where the story came from originally, the Oregon State lineman in the three-point stance, naked and drunk. This is from Matt. The night I graduated from high school, I tried to drink a gallon of whiskey. Didn't work. Didn't work at all. Long story short, my friend dragged me back to his house because he was concerned for my well-being. Good friend. I proceeded to walk into his parents' bedroom and started peeing in the corner. Dad jumped up and told me to get in bed before I kill you. So I jumped in bed with my friend's mom and started spooning. The dad grabbed me by my feet, pulled me out of the bed at such a high rate of speed, my head hit the ground so hard I suffered a concussion. It was hard to diagnose, however, because I had a hangover for the next 3 days that I thought I had self-induced whiskey brain damage. I say good work to the kid from OSU. Go Beavers. This is from Matt in Bend, Oregon. There's another involving broken plates in Pennsylvania. Kid, I can't even get into that one because I want to read this in its entirety because it deserves to be read in its entirety. It's from Brian in Elk River, Minnesota. He played Division III football at University of Wisconsin-Eau Claire. Crazy, small party school, totally out of control, lays under the radar, complete madness 7 days a week. My nickname, well, I can't read your nickname, Brian, but it's a good one. I hung out with a tight end who was nuts. He was 6'8", 260. After looking at it, he was probably juiced up. His name was Skelma. One cold night in February, and I stress cold, 20 degrees below zero, Skelma and I were out on a Saturday night at Shenanigans. I was dressed rather warm. Skelma was in a white polo, red and white polka dot boxers and sandals. 1 a.m. rolls around, we're housed. I mean housed. Skelma grabs me, tells me he's leaving, no idea why. 5 seconds later, he's jumping on top of a taxi cab while it's driving. On top meaning on top, not on the hood. And Skelma manages to hide from the cops for 2 hours. Then he decides to drive home. Good decision. On his way, he stopped on the side of the road and loaded up a dead deer into the back of his pickup truck. Gets better from here. He then decided to head over to our buddy's house, drag the frozen deer inside, set it up in the recliner of our buddy's house, tape an empty beer can to one of the front hoofs and the TV remote to the other one. turned on the TV and left. Keep in mind the deer was frozen with all four legs sticking straight out. This is what our sober buddy woke up to the following morning. A dead, thawed-out, bloody deer in his living room with a remote and a beer can in its grasp. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is the winner of today's Spirit Award here on the Scott Van Pelt Show on ESPN Radio, ESPNradio.com, and ESPNU. Skelma's got problems. I'm just about, what inspires you to pick up the dead deer? I guess in that state you go, you know what? It's the same thing that inspires a guy who's hammered in somebody's house he doesn't know to get in a three-point stance. And maybe it's why one of my buddies on a New Year's Eve when he was hammered stole a cab and picked up a fare. Drove him across the river to Virginia, told him it was $20. They couldn't figure out why he was in a tux. I can't figure out how he didn't get arrested. Unfortunately, the young man, young Tyler Thomas, did get arrested after being tased naked in a stranger's house at 4:50 in the morning. So kids, if you drink, don't drive. If you drive, don't drink. And if you drink, don't break into someone's house and get in a three-point stance while carrying a deer. I thank you. I thank you for being there every day. And I'm so glad we brought this story up. You people are not well, particularly the Midwest. Coming up next, we get the train back on the track with the one big thing, and it's a story that needs to be a bigger thing. We'll start trying to rectify that situation pronto. It's ESPN Radio.